Today we're going to have a little more equation solving fun using this handout right here. Now I'm going to be assuming while we're doing these practice problems that so far the reason I gave you these problems is because you've done pretty well with solving equations so far. So I'm going to go pretty quickly. The point of this is just for you to get some practice with working them yourself and then checking them with me. If I'm going too fast, please feel free to rewind it. Or if you feel like you need some that are a little bit easier, let me know, and I can always give you a different set. But I do have the expectation, no matter what, that you are going to have a piece of paper that looks just like this. You should be getting out a piece of notebook paper if you don't already have one. In one column of the paper, you need to show your work. In the middle column, what I'd like you to do is while you're working it, as soon as the problem pops up on the screen, you pause the video and then you take a couple minutes to try to work it yourself. So that work needs to go here. Then unpause the video, watch me work it, and put that work down in the middle while you're watching it. Then say whether or not it matches. If your work matches mine, great. All you have to do is say yes. If your work does not match mine, you need to specifically say why not. Maybe you might say, I forgot to subtract from both sides or something like that. So again, your work followed by my work, and then whether or not the two match is the expectation. It is for a grade, so you need to make sure you do that part. I'm going to go ahead and start with number 1. Remember, our goal when we're solving an equation is to isolate that variable. It means get that variable by itself so that you've got just the variable on one side of the equation and you've got a number on the other side so that you can see what the value of that variable is. So I'm going to get rid of this minus 5 first with a plus 5, which is going to cancel. I got rid of 5 over here, so I added 5 over here. So remember, it's an equation, it's got to stay balanced. So I'm going to add 5 over here. This is where your integer rules can sometimes get you into trouble. Keep that calculator handy. Don't miss this problem just because you goofed your integer rules. A negative 21 and a positive 5 is a negative 16. I'm going to bring down my 2d. Now I've got 2 times d, the inverse or opposite of multiplying by 2 is, of course, to divide by 2. So that's going to cancel, leave me with just a d. I divided that side by 2, so I need to divide that side by 2. d is equal to a negative 8, because a negative 16 divided by a positive 2 is a negative 8. Number 2, remember that a fraction is another way of writing division. So this really means d divided by negative 3 plus 2 is equal to 5. I'm going to get rid of the plus 2 first with, of course, a minus 2. That's going to cancel. Leave me with a d divided by negative 3. I subtracted 2 from over here, so I need to subtract 2 from over here. 5 minus 2 is 3. Now I've got d divided by negative 3. The inverse of dividing by negative 3 is, of course, to multiply by a negative 3. So if I was dividing by 3, and then I just turn around and multiply by 3, that's going to cancel, leave me with just a d. I multiplied that side by negative 3, so I got to multiply this side by negative 3. 3 times a negative 3 is a negative 9. Number 3, to isolate this variable, first of all, I need to get rid of the 4. So I'm going to subtract a 4 from both sides of my equal sign. That's going to cancel. That's going to leave me with a 5d. Now this is where a lot of people make mistakes. Negative 26 minus 4 is not, repeat, not a negative 22. Because you've really got 26 negatives, and then you put 4 more negatives with it. So that's actually a negative 30. I've got my 5 times d, so to undo that multiplication, I'm going to divide. That's going to cancel, leave me with a d. I divided that side by 5, so I'm going to divide that side by 5. d is equal to a negative 6. Number 4. Oh, no, I just did that. Oh, somehow I got number 3 twice. Whoopsie. So I guess we'll skip number 4 for right now, because I don't happen to have it handy with me. All right, so to undo or to isolate this variable, I need to get rid of this plus 4 by subtracting a 4 from both sides. That's going to leave me with 7d. This is a case just like the last problem we just worked. Negative 17 minus 4 is not, repeat, not negative 13. You've got 17 negatives, then you put 4 more negatives with it. So that is going to be a negative 21. So I've got 7 times d. I need to undo that multiplication by dividing. That's going to leave me with a d. I divided this side by 7, so I'm going to divide this side by 7. d is equal to a negative 3. Number 6, you've got multiplication and you've got subtraction. I need to get rid of that minus 5 with a plus 5. On both sides, of course. A negative 13 plus a positive 5 is going to leave me with a negative 8, because 5 of those positives will cancel out 5 of those negatives. This will cancel out altogether and leave me with a negative 2d. To get rid of that multiplication, I have to divide. And I'm not just dividing by a negative 2. I'm not just dividing by a 2. I'm dividing by a negative 2. So that's going to leave me with a d on this side. I divided this side by negative 2, so I'm going to divide that side by negative 2. Negative 8 divided by negative 2 is a positive 4. So d is equal to 4. Number 7, I've got a minus 8 I need to get rid of first. So I'm going to add 8, which is going to cancel. I added 8 over here, so I got to add 8 over there. 8 and a negative 2 is a positive 6. It's going to leave me with 6d over here. I've got multiplication. In order to undo multiplying, I have to divide by 6. That's going to leave me with just a d. I divided this side by 6, so I'm going to divide this side by 6. d is equal to 1. Number 8, the variable is on the other side of the equal sign from what it has been in previous problems, but that doesn't mean it doesn't still work just the same. We still want to get this d isolated. So in order to get that d by itself, first of all, I'm going to get rid of the 9 with a minus 9, which means I need to do minus 9 over here. This is not a negative 6. You've got a negative 15 and then a negative 9, which put together is going to be a negative 24. I'm going to bring down my 6d. To get rid of that multiplying by 6, I'm going to divide by 6. That's going to leave me with a d. I divided this side by 6, so I'm going to divide this side by 6. 24 divided by 6 is a negative 4, because it's a negative divided by a positive. Number 9, I need to get rid of a minus 17 in order to get this d by itself. So I'm going to add 17. If I add 17 over here, I need to add 17 over here. Negative 25 and a positive 17 is a negative 8. Bring down my 4d. So I've got this 4 times d that I need to get rid of. The opposite of multiplying is, of course, to divide. I divided this side by 4, so I need to divide this side by 4. Negative 8 divided by a positive 4 is a negative 2. Negative 2 is equal to d. Number 10, d divided by 4 minus 2 is equal to 6. I'm going to undo this minus 2 with a plus 2, which means I got to add 2 over here. Negative 6 plus a positive 2 is a negative 4. I'm going to bring down my d divided by 4. Now, a bunch of you guys I noticed on your masteries were trying to do the opposite. Okay, the opposite of d divided by 4 is not to do more division. The opposite of division is, of course, to multiply. A bunch of you guys on your masteries divided by this number instead of multiplying by this number. So to get rid of this division, I'm going to multiply. That's going to leave me with a d. I multiplied this side by 4, so I'm going to multiply that side by 4. D is equal to negative 16. Number 11, I've got to get rid of this minus 10. I'm going to do that by adding 10. Got to add it to both sides, of course. It's going to cancel here, leaving with a D divided by 8. I added 10 over here, so I'm going to add 10 over here. 10 plus a negative 8 is a positive 2. Again, I've got division that I need to get rid of. The inverse of dividing is to multiply. So that's going to cancel, leave me with just a D. I multiplied this side by 8, so I'm going to multiply that side by 8. D is equal to 16. Last one, we need to get rid of this 15 with a minus 15 on either side. It's going to leave me with 3 D's over here. 0 minus 15 is a negative 15. I'm going to undo this multiplying by dividing. D is equal to a negative 5.